Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the latest edition of the Stargate Sci-Fi Cult Classics franchise documentary. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by one of the most world-renowned, famous voiceover artists, Richard Epcar. And Richard is here on a special edition of the Starfy Sci-Fi Cult Classics documentary because Richard is the only person has actually voiced General Hammond in a voiceover so far. He voiced General Hammond in Stargate SG1 Unleashed, the video game, back in 2013. As we know, Don Davis is no longer with us, so it's a very special honor, I suppose, for you, Richard, as well. I know you've many gigs and many acts, over 100 and more or 200 more of all video games, TV series. But to voice someone like Don Davis and be the first one to do that is that's a unique sort of an honor, and I suppose it must be something you're privileged to have done in your career.
Yeah, absolutely. He was a terrific actor and a wonderful guy, and it's always hard to fill someone's shoes like that. But I was working with the producer on the game actually, and he got the idea of having me revoice Don for for that part for General Hammond, and I got to work with a few of the different actors from the show and got to voice with them, so that was fun. And and it's a wonderful show, so it was nice to be part of that show on any level. So yeah.
And I suppose, Richard, in terms of the video game, did you hear about that it was in the pipeline for a while? What sort of brought it to your attention, and what sort of brought the producers of the video game? Had they you in mind for a long way out? Was you the only person they asked in terms of that role?
Yeah, it was it was just one of those things. I had worked with and his name eludes me now, but he was the producer of another project that I worked on. I was directing the project for him, and I direct a lot of stuff, and as you mentioned, I do a lot of voice work. I've done over 600 characters in games and animation and anime. And so we worked together, and I guess he thought of me to do this part of Don, because Don wasn't available, obviously. So he wanted someone to voice General Hammond in the game, and he thought of me, and I was really happy he did. And we went in and did it, and that's pretty much how how it worked out. I just kind of happened to be. I had worked with him on a previous project, so that's kind of what happened. That happens a lot of times in this business.
And I
Yeah.
suppose that, Richard, you mentioned that, and one thing is that's very unique about Stargate SG1 is you mentioned getting to work with some of the fellow cast members. Is the likes of Richard Dean Anderson does voice Colonel Jack O'Neill in the game. Amanda Tapping does voice Samantha Carter. Christopher Judge does voice sort of T. So all the main sort of protagonists in that sort of show, and to be in a video game where they do have all the original sort of characters, does it really attract you to a sort of project? Because you probably know yourself how big that was as a sci-fi sort of series as well, and obviously people must have been chomping at the bit to get at the video game in terms of that, and a big
Yeah.
sort of full sort of following, and to be there as a voiceover actor with the actual assembly of the cast members as well. You must have, it must be a really exciting project because normally in those situations it mainly is all other voiceover actors, I presume.
Well, what was nice about this, I actually got to read with Richard Dean Anderson. We got to do all of our, all of our stuff together. We read together, which is unusual in games because usually
Oh,
in games you go one at a time and you do your character. But I got to read with Richard. I got to read with Judge. I got to read with Chris Judge and a few of the other characters. I also played another couple of characters in the game. I played a priest, and I'm trying to remember. It was a while ago, as you said. It was 6 years ago. Um, but there was a couple of really fun offbeat characters I got to play in that game, and they were really a lot of fun to play as well.
and I suppose before the video game, and when you were sounded up for playing this role of General Hammond, had you watched Stargate in the past? Were you aware of that sort of show before the project came to your doors,
Oh,
or
sure.
were
Yeah,
you?
I originally, I was originally introduced to it by the movie, which I thought was incredible. I loved the film was wonderful, and then they made they made the series out of it, and the series was really a wonderful series as well. So it was fun to be part of that. And I've always been a big fan of Richard Dean Anderson's, from MacGyver and all those different things. So it was fun to work with him. He's a wonderfully nice guy. It was great to work with him and to be part of that whole thing.
I suppose you mentioned that, so you're probably well versed in Don's sort of character, the sort of General Hammond of Texas, as the saying goes, and that sort of southern sort of accent, that sort of southern vibe, very different to the rest of the cast members. Don had a particular unique sort of an accent, the sort of real sort of Wyoming or Kansas, that sort of USA type traditional
Yeah, I
sort.
guess it was supposed to be like a Texas kind of an accent, but what's funny is Don is actually from Missouri. So Don was putting on some sort of an accent too, so it was kind of funny. But and I always thought he was Canadian, but it turns out he was actually born in America in Missouri, and then I guess they shot the show in Canada, so he went up there and moved up there when they were doing the series. So that was
And
kind of a fun. Go ahead.
Richard, in terms of the cut scenes now, in terms of the Stargate, the sort of video game itself, did you get a sense where did you want to? I know speaking to some voiceover actors in the past, they always like to see drawings or pictures of what the character might look like to give them an image. But you probably had the TV series to go on, so you sort of knew straight off what General Hammond sort of looked like. He sort of broadness, he sort of things. So you probably weren't sometimes voiceover actors they need that sort of picture to see the sort of thing. You probably didn't need that, I imagine. You probably had a fair idea before you went to the project.
Well, you're right about that. I mean, obviously, I was familiar with the show, and I knew of Don, and I knew of his portrayal of General Hammond. So that part was in my head already. But you're right about that. A lot of times you go into the booth, and if you don't know this particular character, it's a new character, whatever you like to see at least a drawing or something of it, because that'll give you an idea of what this guy sounds like. Um, uh, Sometimes you don't get the drawing. Sometimes you just get a brief explanation of what this character's like, and then you have to kind of create that in your head and come up with an idea what that character sounds like. So, in this particular instance, that was easy because I knew what he was like, and I had to try to replicate that. But with the other characters, it was nice. They did have renderings of this a couple of the different characters. One looked like a Bedouin. He was kind of like an Arab character. Uh, and there was another character, I can't remember which one that was, but they had renderings of these characters so I could see what they looked like.
And I suppose, Richard, when you're sort of playing that or voicing that sort of character, I suppose for a video game, I presume the sort of cutscenes in terms of voiceover, it's sort of much sort of shorter in terms of probably maybe 3 4 days of 2 or 3 days of dialogue that's involved in a game, and it's probably sort of cutthroat. So on the week you're going shooting in terms of doing the voiceover inside the studio booth for that, you start to get yourself into that mood of that sort of character? Do you sort of get yourself sort of talking or sort of your vocal cords or something like that in terms of just getting that sort of pattern? But then you mentioned you played one or two characters, so if you're too concentrated on the one character, could you get sort of lost in terms of your voice for the other two?
Yeah, normally the way this works is you want to do one character all the way through and get him done, and then you go on to the next character and go through and get them done. Um, yeah, I mean it just depends on you mentioned 4 days. It depends on the game. I mean, I've been on games we've recorded for 6 months, a year. Sometimes it depends on how big the part is and how many how much dialogue that character has. I mean, it can go on for a really long time, or you can go in and do a one day, or do a 2 hour, 4 hour session, and you're done. So it just depends on what the game is and what the role is.
And I suppose, Richard, we know the Stargate sort of universe is always sort of flowing in terms of new projects, new pipelines, new movies, new TV series come line. We had Stargate Origin there recently. The talks of a new movie and the sort of works as well. And I suppose for you having voiced sort of General Hammond, if one thing that's probably muted is probably an animated sort of series in terms of Stargate sort of going forward. I suppose that opens up opportunities for you because people will say who has voiced General Hammond in the past, and obviously they go back to you and they'll probably knock on your sort of door because if it's not broken, the saying goes, don't fix it.
Yeah, well, of course, I would love to do something like that. Absolutely. You know, so much of this stuff is a roll of the dice. You know what I mean? It's just you never know. I've been in this long running series called Lupin the Third for almost 20 years now, and every time I get cast as the character that I played originally, it's always kind of a surprise. You would think they would just normally just come and get me and have me do it, but it always goes through a weird process, and sometimes by absolute luck I get to play the character again. So there's no absolutes on this stuff. Things that you think would make sense or that are logical in this business and sometimes are not. So, listen, if the opportunity presented itself, I would be tickled pink and I would love to do it. If they approached me and said, "Would you like to do it?" Absolutely, I would love to do it.
And I know you've been in several big game productions in the past, from Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter,
Yeah,
to sort
right.
of projects in the pipeline. But in terms of Stargate as the sort of computer game, that was the first time they sort of made the transition from TV series to movies into a sort of computer game. So I suppose in that sort of terms, is that very different for a voiceover, a sort of actor, in terms of when you come into a project that hasn't really been a video game before, the apprehension? I suppose like Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter, they did the other way around. They came from video game to movies. They went
Yeah.
that sort. Did you find it's different working with a production that is doing translating a movie or something to video game for the first time?
Well, once again, every project really is different, and you just have to be, as an actor, or a director, you just have to be very flexible. And in this particular instance, this was a source material that I was aware of and that I knew about. A lot of times you go into video games, it's something brand new that they're just creating, and you don't know anything about the past or anything about it. So you're kind of learning as you go. But it really depends on the production. Every production's different. Every show is different. Everything is a little different. So you just have to kind of fly by the seat of your pants and all of this stuff.
And I suppose, Richard, in terms of being involved in Stargate, and since you got involved in the game in 2013, since it came out, have you noticed a sort of email, sort of social media, sort of getting messages about from the Stargate sort of contingent all over the world? Have you noticed that sort of queries coming to you now in terms of Stargate, or sort of getting recognized in terms of it now since you've been involved in that project? Has anything sort of
No, I honestly, I haven't had too much Stargate attention, to be honest with you. I would love to be involved more with that. Yeah, it doesn't. Like I say, I've got such a body of work that it just, sometimes I'll be asked to appear at different places just because of my vast body of work. But yeah, there are certain, like, Transformers and different, like Mortal Kombat you mentioned, that I'm a big part in. Some of these big franchises that are specific to those franchises that asked me to come in. I have not been approached for anything Stargate yet, but I would love to be part of that. Absolutely. I've
yeah?
seen I've seen Chris at a couple of conventions, but that was for other stuff. I've seen him at, like, Dragon Con, which is a big one here in Atlanta, Georgia. They have every year except for this year because of COVID. But I've seen him a couple of times, and it's nice seeing him because he remembers us working together on the game. And then I found out that Carrie, who was in Mortal Kombat, was also part of Stargate. So he's another guy that I've become very friendly with. So it's funny how it's like 6 degrees. you know.
And I suppose, Richard, I suppose, in terms of, I suppose, a vast sort of body of sort of work, but I suppose when an opportunity comes along like this, I suppose in terms of Stargate, and you probably know the sort of the franchise and its big sort of appeal, in terms of going forward, it's probably one of those things that you probably know that it's not a once-off sort of scenario, that there could be some things in the pipeline in the future. Are they the ones you like to really get involved in, because you probably think to yourself, well, there's probably the legs in this, that one opportunity may lead to maybe two or three opportunities, might be within the year, will come about in 2 or 3 years' time as well. While one-off sort of projects, they tend to be sort of one-off sort of projects.
Well, once again, you never know on this stuff, and you hope that it continues on. I mean, I've done these projects that were really obscure and bizarre, and you think that's the end of it, and then they go on for a long time. I did Mortal Kombat versus DC Universe 13 years ago, and I love doing that. And then ever since then, I've been Raiden in Mortal Kombat, and I've been the Joker in everything that NetherRealm does. So uh, all of the games, all the Mortal Kombat games, all the Injustice games, all of those games that are done by NetherRealm Studios. I've been their Raiden, I've been their Joker for 13 years, and that's been great. There's been a lot of them. Same with we did I did a show. I call everything a show. It's another video game, Kingdom Hearts, which is another big one. I play Ansem in that one, and I thought it was going to be a one-off, and here it is. I don't know how many years, 10 years, 10 years, 15 years later, I'm still playing this character, and I'm still doing other characters in it. So, you love that to happen. Certainly, that's the wish for every project you work on, that it continues on and you get to do more of it. But you never know. You never know. And then you do stuff that's really fantastic, and it disappears. So, it just like I say, you never know with this stuff. It's all kind of a roll of the dice. But I would love to do more Stargate. I'd love to be involved with them more, and continue doing the General and these other characters. It'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I suppose, lastly, I suppose, Richard, when you turn on the TV, I suppose, and when you get a free chance, because you're a very busy man, but when you get a chance to put up your uh, feet up on the couch, when you have that luxury, and you probably, Stargate comes on TV or SG1, and you're probably watching that sort of show, does it always sort of resonate with you in terms of being able to sit down and watch it and say, yeah, I was a bit of that. I've been involved in that. I can associate it. You see these actors or characters on screen, and you're like, yeah, I've actually, you sort of feel that yourself a member there. Do you almost like feel that you were part of that?
Yes, of course. You love being a part of all of those casts, and being part of Stargate has been, certainly a source of pride for me. And it's a big title. So anytime you're part of a big title, it's always a source of pride, and you always feel good about that. So yeah, absolutely.
I suppose, Richard, lastly, an absolute pleasure talking to you today. To relive your memories, voicing the one and only General Hammond, played by Lord of Mercy, Don Davis, who appeared in for numerous years. The only person to have voiced General Hammond on a video game or on anything in relation to Stargate. A real world class career, you said, in terms of voiceover acting, and obviously more projects in the time. I know you're a busy man, but thank you for giving your time there to talk to us specifically and exclusively about Stargate. I know you could have talked about other sort of projects as well, but just giving your time to talk about Stargate and your portrayal as Colonel General Hammond, the one and only Don Davis. Richard Epcar, absolute pleasure talking to you today, sir, and we wish you all the best in the future.
My pleasure. And I'd just like to say hello to all the people of Ireland. My wife and I, we love Ireland. It's one of our favorite places on earth, and we hope to come and see you guys again soon.
Uh,
All the
we look
best.
we look forward to it, Richard. Take care.
Thank you. All the best. You too. Bye bye.